close with all the players and all the organizations, especially the Chargers and the Eagles. And we're here to talk about it because, man, it is about to get spicy tomorrow with the schedule release. So joining us, Deb Whitcas here on the show. I will say this. It's so good seeing you again.
Good to see you.
I will say this. When I think of the NFL schedule, right, and we got some pretty good snippets, I think of it this way, right? I feel like this is like my favorite time of night when I would just go to Chili's. And now bear with me on this.
Chili's.
Because here's the thing. We come out with some of these games like, the Broncos and Chiefs on Christmas. And then we got the Cowboys and Eagles to start the season off. And then we got the Chiefs and Chargers going. So all of these, right, because it's not the full schedule release, because I feel like that's the big entree, right? But I got appetizing stuff. I've got my favorite one is the Nashville Hot Mots. Okay. So I got a little zesty here and there with some of these games. When you think of these schedule releases, what's kind of going through your mind through that, especially with who you got to have on television, who's the team that you got to get up on there, especially for prime times? Like, what do you usually look at with the NFL schedule?
I mean, it's Christmas Eve, let's be honest. Right now, I'm so excited. I mean, as far as looking at the schedule ahead, I always I love the international games. I love to see who's playing overseas and what the matchups will be there. Obviously, if I can get to any of the games, I would always love to travel internationally. Also, you got to figure out who is kicking off the season. And this one is especially amazing because it is such a rivalry between the Eagles and Dallas, of course. So literally so funny. My phone was I knew a couple days ago. I had heard the leak, didn't say anything, of course. But then when it actually, everyone found out, my phone was blowing up. And then one of my really good friends in Connor was trying to tell me the news. And I was like, I knew this yesterday. You know what I mean? So I actually got mad. I was like, why does everybody think I don't know this? You know what I mean? But what an exciting game. I feel like we're sticking it, the Eagles are sticking it a little bit to Dallas, Super Bowl champions, huge NFC East rivalries. I also love that the Chargers are playing in Brazil. We'll know tomorrow who
International Jim, I call him. Yeah.
Why not? I think that's going to be a great game. I was like, oh, maybe I can make it to that too. So we'll see. But I'm always very excited to see, where I'll be traveling and who's playing who and what the matchups. I'm actually, and I hate to say this, and I get a lot of slack for it, but I also am really excited to see what the Commanders have in store for this season too. I can't wait to see their schedule as well. I know they're NFC East as well, but they're kind of my number two. They're kind of tied for Chargers. Chargers and Commanders are kind of my number two. So yeah.
No, they both very much improved all last year. I mean, when I talked about the Commanders, I said brand new ownership, new GM, new coach, new quarterback. Everything is also brand new, and yet they get this far into the East Conference Championship. I was so surprised at that.
So far,
and so I was like, okay, now how do they build upon that? That's a lot of question marks for a lot of these teams when you get the first year of building this thing up. What is the second year now going to start to look like? Because I usually look for the full blossom by year 2, year 3.
Yeah.
Because that's all time for roster construction, and that's plenty of time for them to get that relationship going. And at the same time, now you start making a push, especially with who you got to play on the schedule, if that's a favorable one. So, talking about this with the NFL draft, because I know I've seen a couple of your snippets where I know you've had Ben Troop up on there on your show a couple times. Talking about the Tennessee Titans, because Chase and I, we've been on this about Cam Ward. Now, we know that when teams get a brand new quarterback, it's a new play style. It's a new kind of freshening up on offense, because the thing about me with Will Levis is he tends to hold the ball on for way too long.
And I was a Will Levis fan too, but
yeah.
But so I saw him in Combine. I was like, I had my eye on him, but it just didn't work out, during the season. But
yeah, I saw the potentials on him as well, and I was just kind of disappointed. But now with Cam Ward here, what do we expect to see from the Tennessee Titans with their number 1 overall pick?
I mean, I think we're going to see a lot from Cam Ward in general. I think he was, the correct number 1 pick. I think Abdul. I think yeah. I mean, I think Cam Ward was definitely the right way to go. I think the Titans will be a better team. I mean, who are they had Mason Rudolph, who
Yeah,
now is
Mason
back
Rudolph. Yep,
with
and
the
now,
Steelers.
yeah,
So he's kind of back home. Who we'll see what happens with the Steelers this season. Who actually their quarterback is going to be? I think it's going to be Kirk Cousins, but we'll see when that happens. No, I think the Titans made the right decision. I think. Might take some time for Cam Ward to kind of get in that system a little bit, but I think by mid-season they'll be better than they were last season. That's for sure.
yeah, absolutely. So shifting to, of course, the Philadelphia Eagles, world champions, as everybody,
Yes, world
we've been
champions,
hearing about it
the
for like
birds.
2 months.
I know,
But
and Eagles fans will not let it go. I mean, why should we, right?
But you know what, though? When you have such a great ownership with a great front office,
Yeah.
like that's what makes a lot of these teams blossom the most.
And
So,
how we trust, man. He did it again.
yes, he has. So I was talking about this, and I've talked with a lot of people off the air because I mean I love my fan base, and sometimes they may not like certain takes or my top tens, but I said it this way and explain it to me in your own words as well. Because when I look at Jalen Hurts, I don't see him as the pure pocket thrower like a Herbert or Allen in most of them.
Right.
But he is lethal and dangerous as a dual threat quarterback where he can throw. He does have the athletic capabilities that he possesses that he can make the deep ball throws because he's got Devontae Smith out in the backfield. Yep. So when you describe Jalen Hurts, because to me, when I did my top 10, I put him at 6, scratching the surface at 5, only because now that he has the Super Bowl win out of 2 appearances, could he maybe potentially win another to climb into the top 5? But I think when I look at quarterback stature, and then basically who he's supported around, like how would you describe that about Jalen Hurts, his kind of road to journey as now being a Super Bowl champion?
I agree with you, to be honest. I wasn't sold on Jalen Hurts, back when he first started. I thought his arm strength was going to be an issue. Obviously, he has proven everybody wrong. So, but I do agree with you. I think he uses his legs and his arm kind of equally. His running strength might be even a little bit better than his arm strength. And I do think it's the weapons around him as well. But I do think he's definitely a top 10 quarterback. I agree. He's scratching the surface of the number 5 there. Is he number 1? I don't think so. Do I think the Eagles are number 1? Yes. But I agree with you that he's definitely a dual threat quarterback. So that's kind of how I would describe him as well. But I'm kind of glad he proved me wrong, to be honest. I think he proved a lot of people wrong. So, but yeah.
Yeah, so in explaining about this about Howie Roseman, because we just know he loves pulling out a bunch of magic out of his bag.
It's wild.
So this is my thing, and I explain this the best way possible, and maybe you might agree with this. But to me, when I looked at the Philadelphia Eagles of their needs to going into the next season, I didn't think edge rusher was a big deal, and the only reason of it is because they let Josh Sweat go. They let Milton Williams go.
Yep.
I thought the big one they could not find in that draft was linebacker. That's why they re-signed Zach Bond. You want to be able to re-sign your most important player there that you can't find in this draft. And in this draft, I'm surprised they even landed Jahad Campbell because you could play him both the linebacker and on the outside. That's why I was like, edge rusher was not a big deal to me because they could find it in this draft. I mean, when you think of Howie Roseman and how he nitpicks a lot of these, what do you kind of see from what he's seeing from there? Because that was my thought. I was like, that's the reason why Howie Roseman got the extension. Is because of moves like that I know that he's not desperate, but he loves to take the best player available in that first round.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I wanted James Pierce Jr. First of all, that was my player for this. And after that, who else did I want? God, there was so many people. Nick and Wardy, I wanted him too, but we didn't get them. But I was very happy with Campbell. I thought that was a great first pick. I did think we needed an edge rusher though. Brandon Graham, Josh Sweat, Milton Williams. So I was glad, Campbell got in there. But Howie just has this way of like knowing. And one thing I was confused. I still don't know why they moved up to get him.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, we were at 32, went to 31, traded with Kansas City or traded up with Kansas City. I'm still not sure why that happened, but it did. Totally happy with Campbell. I'm happy with everyone that the Eagles picked, to be honest. We obviously needed, to concentrate on defense. They did that. LB, DT, CB, LB. Like, I love that we got Mondon from Georgia. I'm always in for the Georgia players. For Bama and Georgia are always my two top favorites. So yeah. Also, I'm excited. We also got a quarterback because I do think I love Tanner McGee. I do, but I love the fact that we have Kyle McCord, who played, at St. Joseph's Prep too. So he's a hometown Philly boy.
Yeah, I told people about Kyle McCord. I was just like, look, he has experience going from Ohio State to Syracuse and learning a lot of what went wrong at Ohio State, because I was just like, man, Chase here is actually from Ohio. So, of course, he understands with Ohio State, because he told me a lot about Kyle McCord when they had him before they got Will Howard. And he's just like, he just wasn't doing it for us. I'm like, but wait a minute. I just seen him go toe-to-toe with Cam Ward, and unfortunately, Miami didn't have the defense. So that's where I was like, that's a classic experience battle, because Kyle McCord has been there with the Big Ten. Yep. So I expect him, to have very good experience, kind of upbringing, and yet backing up, Jalen Hurts. That's a very good ace in the hole in case of injuries or something happens during the weeks. You got to have that kind of quarterback. So talking and shifting to the Chargers, because we know that they have something to prove this year. And I thought this was very typical of Jim Harbaugh. Trench warfare, running, ground and pound. And then at the same time, they addressed wide receiver very well.
They did.
Keandre Smith.
Yep.
I loved both of them. What do you think about this Charger roster? Because now they go and get Mekhi Becton to solidify the offensive line. They're not quite done from there. I'm not entirely sure if the window is still open for a reunion of Keenan Allen, maybe. But
how much would you love that, though? I would love that so much.
So much. So I'm like there's a lot this year, right?
Yeah, I agree. And I love their first pick. Well, I have to be honest, when they first pick a running back for their pick 22, I was watching with a friend of mine, and I looked over at him, and I'm like, wide receiver, why are we going running back? Like, what is going on here? Obviously, they picked several wide receivers after, which, Trey Harris, great. Who else? Who else is in there? Lambert Smith. Yes. So yeah, but I was like, running back. Okay, but we all know, Harbaugh he's a running back. He loves the running game, so that actually makes sense. So I feel like that pick was a good one. Then they went wide receiver, then DT, then edge, which they addressed a lot. Then they got a TE as well. So yeah, I think the Chargers they made some really good picks.
Yeah, when I watched Ronnie Gadsden, because of course, like I do it on my separate podcast as well, is that I felt that I feel like he's a poor man's Colston Loveland, in my opinion, with the higher upside, because I feel like you could throw him over the shoulder on the outside. You can have him as the middle attacker. He could do literally everything for you. And on top of that, while getting Tyler Conklin as their tight end, I think that really does. I think that's probably a very good pair that you could have for a kind of offense like this. We know that this year, especially when it comes to a quarterback like Justin Herbert, I was talking about this several times. And
I love this quarterback room, by the way. We got Justin Herbert, we got Taylor Heineke, and Trey. Like, hello.
Yeah, we got plenty of quarterbacks on their disposal. My big thing is that what's hindering right now with Justin Herbert is because obviously with the playoff performance last year with 4 picks, that is hovering over his head. So he knows that, and he takes accountability to it. How important does this have to be for Justin Herbert to not only come off of a season where he finally gets the winning coach, he finally gets a winning culture? How important does this have to be? Because I felt like we were talking about this in the past when Peyton Manning first got his playoff win in 2003. And then the same when we got Lamar Jackson with his first one. So this has to be where he's got to prove a lot of these doubters wrong and remind people why he is a top 10 quarterback in this league.
Absolutely. I think it's super important for Justin Herbert this season. He played great last season and then just kind of died off in the playoffs. Like I was again watching with friends and I was like, wow, like he just it I don't want to say shit the bed, but like it just went bad really fast. Like the Chargers are a better team. We're a better team than that, and everybody said they should have won that game, and obviously did not. But yeah, I think it's a big year for him. I think last year was a big year for him too. We know new coach. They did really well. I think they did better than people expected them to, and this season I think they're even going to be even better.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't want to toot my own horn, but even when I did the predictions, I predicted that team to go 11-6, and apparently
Okay.
I was right. And I was
Yeah.
just like,
Yeah.
I didn't look at the construction, the quarterback, and all the rest of it. I said I looked at the team as a whole with
Yep.
what Jim Harbaugh does, because
Yep.
Jim
I
Harbaugh's going
agree.
to work magic.
Yep.
So, quickly before letting you move on, because to me, I look at this season, and when I looked at how teams really constructed their rosters,
Mhm.
because Chase here, my co-host, he's a diehard Browns fan, and he's
Oh,
going to
that's
be excited.
tough.
He
Okay.
was he was excited. I'm sure he watched the show all last week of what I had to say defending Shedeur Sanders. I
Okay.
watched that tape, Deb, and I looked at it this way. I did not break down Shedeur Sanders as the person. I broke down Shedeur Sanders as the
As
player,
the player,
quarterback.
as everybody should be, and I
Yes,
don't know why everyone's bringing his personality. I mean, yes, it's important, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think he fell
it's
because
just such a
everyone
weird
said it was bad.
agenda.
But look
Yeah,
at the player. Look at
yeah.
the player.
So this is what I looked at. I watched the film the other day, and when I tell you, when I watched the throws between Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders,
Mhm.
I could see the distinct difference. Where
Mhm.
that touch out of Shedeur's hand is the kind that I'm like, you got to feel excited for when this kid finally starts, because
Yeah.
where he gets drafted at that point, and I think this is a better situation than most people believe with Cleveland, because to me, you got an experienced quarterback. You
Mhm.
got a rookie quarterback that you're going to battle out with in camp. But at the same time, you have the upper hand upside. And so when he's ready for this, I think this was more of the humility factor and more of build your way from the bottom to the top.
And he will.
That's what I
I'm
think.
not sure he's gonna do it with the Browns. I think they might trade him. I'm just saying, but he will be a force in the NFL,
Yeah.
guaranteed.
Yeah, I expect it too. But I just think with a lot of these teams, and call me crazy, because Chase already did. He basically, because I said this, I said the New England Patriots, with the way and however this schedule goes, will be a wild card team before the Pittsburgh Steelers. People looked
Really?
sideways. Yes.
I think you're crazy.
Here's my thing. This is my thing. I've watched Mike Vrabel. I know what Mike Vrabel's capable of. He could
Okay.
take fourth, fifth string defensive players and make them into A players in any given Sunday. And so
Okay.
I'm just like, New England's identity with under Mike Vrabel just makes so much sense. And that Will Campbell pick for Drake May
Oh,
just
yeah.
was like, you got to protect your franchise quarterback.
Yeah.
Like
Absolutely. No,
that's what I'm
I
saying.
agree with you. I
Support.
hope it. For all of my Patriots fans, they deserve some love this season for sure.
And when they
They
got
played
Travion
pretty good last
Henderson, I
year.
was like, wow, but that's all a part of what your identity is. And
Yeah.
I just think they're capable of being a playoff team. Pittsburgh don't have a quarterback. They traded away George Pickens.
They
And
did,
it's
which is
like,
crazy.
that's why I'm like, I don't see this ending well.
I'm still shocked.
I really don't.
I do think the Patriots will have a winning season. I'm not sure about making the playoffs. That might be pushing it, but I do think they'll have a winning season this season, which is a step above what happened last year.
You know what?
By the way,
One game above 500 and putting yourself in middle of the pack in the draft every year is just straight purgatory.
yeah. Yeah, I was gonna say too. Going back to the Chargers really quick. I'm really Lon McConkey. I'm so excited to see him on the field again because I think he's
Yes,
even gonna have a better season this season than he did last season.
man, he is on my radar for any
Mhm.
fantasy footballers out there watching or listening to the show. I have him right there up on my radar set. But
Yep.
so good having you, Deb. I mean,
So much
I love
fun.
doing this all the time, all the time.
And I'm available anytime.
Yeah,
Just
very.
give me a buzz. I'll
Well,
have to have you on Blind Blitz too.
oh yes,
Yeah,
we definitely got to do that. But yes,
do it.
anytime I got sources, you're my reliable resource right there.
I
Whenever I'm like,
appreciate
does
that.
this really happen? Oh yeah, it is. So I'm like, yep. So definitely check her out at the Blonde Blitz. She is the host of the show. She's got great content and also always in the scoop all season long of the NFL season. So good to have you on, Deb. Take care of
Thanks for having me
yourself,
on.
and we can't wait to do it again soon.
All right, see you guys soon. Thank you.
See you.